Hey, everybody. Welcome to Perpetual Motion Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mo Anderson. This is an educational, inspirational program that focuses on helping professionals communicate better, invest wisely, and excel in their careers. Today, I'm excited to welcome Ant Blair, a passionate relationship coach and author dedicated to helping individuals discover extraordinary love. With a unique blend of biblical wisdom and practical strategies, he empowers people to cultivate meaningful connections that nourish the spirit. Sounds lovely. His transformative well framework offers a fresh perspective on navigating love, making it accessible to everyone, from those seeking to deepen existing relationships to those ready to embrace new possibilities. Join us as we explore Anthony's insights and learn how to unlock the love you always desire.
You can't say Dr. Mo ain't tell ya that fear magnifies the consequences of failure. What are you scared of? Why are you afraid? I'd rather live like I'm dying than live.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Welcome, Ant. It does sound good. And I'm excited to learn more.
I'm so excited to be here. I've been thinking about this for the past 3 weeks. I've been looking forward to reconnecting with you and topping it up, as you say.
Well, yay. I love the passion and enthusiasm, as have I. Well, let's just get after it. Let's talk about the well framework first, because so many of the questions lead from that. Can you explain the well framework and how it originated, and also what makes it unique compared to other relationship approaches?
Sure. The premise of it is love can only be recognized by the deliberate choices that it prompts, not the emotion and emotional responses are deliberate choices. And what I've learned in my own relationship experiences, journeys, and through observing other folks is we get caught up in the emotional response and we don't make deliberate choices. And I see that the emotional response, that's usually a pathway to destruction early on.
Destruction, okay.
Girl, I mean, look, if you look at the divorce rates, people who are in relationships and happy, I mean, you probably know some people. I know some people.
Sure.
The proof is in the pudding, as they say.
You're right. It's out getting towards 60% now, the divorce rate. You were right.
See, that's what I'm saying. And what I didn't realize as I was putting this together, I just told you that I read a few books that really solidified my position on this theory. And it is a theory. I practice, but it's a theory.
Sure.
What I know is the West. So we live in the West. And there's people who live in the East. And by observation, we go about love in very different ways. And when I look at how people in the West go about love, it's very romanticized and, I got to find the perfect person. And when I find the perfect person, I'm going to fall in love. And when I fall in love, we're going to live happily ever after. And that's a very Western view of love. Rom-coms and Disney movies and Harlequin romances, all of that stuff.
Okay.
East, and that's emotional response. All of that stuff is all warm and fuzzy, feels good. Oh my God, I got the butterflies, and I got the pitter patter, all things.
Right. I can't sleep, can't eat, all of that.
There you go. The East, on the other hand, they do things very different. You see, they're more about deliberate choices. For example, look at the Asian culture. specifically India. I mean, it's very deliberate. It's to the point where, okay, mom and dad is getting together over here with mom and dad over here. And they're saying, hey, your kid, my kid, your daughter, my son. This is how this is going to work out. And they have arranged marriages. Now, the younger generation are like, boo on that. And they're starting to buck that trend. And it's still very much the way that Indian people go about marriage. It's all about deliberate choice. And then the love comes later.
Okay.
Now, the numbers, comparatively speaking, to the East and the West, I didn't think to look those up because I wasn't thinking that you were going to go down this road with the line of questioning. But I imagine a quick Google search would probably support the fact that people in the East, their relationships, their marriages, they probably last long.
Okay. Well, the data I've seen, it has in the past, although their divorce rates are rising as well because more people, as you know, adopt Western culture, whether
There it is.
hip hop music or the way we dress or our awful diet. So
There it
they're
is.
gaining weight. There's more divorces, but at the same time, I do have friends that are Indian. They have an app, a special app that's designed around, values and
there it is.
considering the family and all of that. So it's, we can learn from each other, I guess, because at the same time, if you're totally unattracted to somebody as well, I mean, there needs to be some of that there, don't you think?
Well, I do. I do think that there needs to be some attraction there. But then what does the Bible say, though, right? So we talk about Proverbs 31. You're like, I want to be the Proverbs 31 woman. I want to marry a Proverbs 31 woman. Towards the end of that whole chapter, it says, hey, beauty gonna fade. But a woman who honors the Lord, that's where the real value is. So, I mean, yeah, it's got to be some attraction there. But at the end of the day, we all going to be unattractive at some point.
This is true. And real love is going to outlast the wrinkles and
there it is.
Everything, the fading eyesight. I believe you told me when we talked before, though, and you've alluded to the Bible, that the wealth framework is based on biblical principles. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because the idea of loving your neighbor as yourself, that's what really got me thinking about, how does this really look? How does this whole love idea really work? Because we study so many things, right? So you're a dentist. You had to go to school and study dentistry. I went to school. I studied marketing. Who studies love? And we say is very, very important. But how many of us really go into it with the knowledge of, or even some kind of general understanding or idea of what it is? So there's that part of it. But going back to the Bible part of it, I have to love myself well to be able to love someone else well is the implication of that verse.
Okay.
Right. So if I don't love myself well, if I don't take care of myself, if I connect with someone, how well am I going to love that person?
Okay.
Because I haven't had the chance to even practice it with myself. So part of the framework came from, I wonder how that really would work. So if I get myself straightened out, okay, now I got that part taken care of. So now that I'm in a good place, how do I go about finding someone that I can make the deliberate choice to love? That's where the whole impetus and the whole idea from it came, that it came from. The WELL is an acronym for welcome, entertain, like, and love.
Okay.
So biblical principles, we're to welcome everyone.
Mm-hmm.
We're to entertain people. And when I say entertain, it's not like I'm juggling balls and spinning plates and telling jokes and whatnot, although some people might get down like that.
Sure.
But it's just being engaging, spending time with the person. Yeah, exactly. And so from that point, if I'm entertaining that person, well, now I can decide whether or not I like that person. And if I determine that if I make the deliberate choice that I can like that person, then I can make the deliberate choice to love that person. So you have your W and your E and your L and your L. So we're welcoming, entertaining, liking, and then loving, as opposed to, I just stumbled and fell into love. Well, we're actually going through a framework to where we can make deliberate choices and take intentional steps to learn and then discover, is this somebody that I can love, or can I just like that person? Or, can I just entertain that person every now and then? I see him out and about. We might be able to get together. I call him up, or, I send him an email, or however way that works.
Right. DM, slide in the DMs.
Yeah, slide them in the DMs. Exactly.
Okay.
But it just starts out just being a welcoming person, so basically being a good Christian.
Okay. The two L's you said, like and love, right?
Correct.
Let's explore that a little bit, because it sounds like you need to be a whole and healthy person yourself to apply this principle. And I know many people struggle with past patterns, past relationship patterns, whether it was family or previous connections. How does the WELL framework help individuals break free from those cycles so that they can then make healthier choices for a potential partner?
Going back to the whole idea of the emotional responses. So you talk about the pattern. So we have to break down those patterns and use a little bit of psychology on that. So when we talk about how relationships usually play out, talked about it at the beginning of the podcast. We have to understand that we have to detach ourselves from the emotion of things to be able to think clear-headed. And so when you talk about where does a person have to be to break free from the pattern, they have to first be aware of the pattern. And once they're aware of their patterns, then they have to step back and say, oh, I have to detach myself from the emotion, from the pattern, so that I can then do a pattern interrupt and do something different. But that's awareness. A person has to be aware of what's going on with them when they're exposed to certain stimuli out in the world.
Right. So part of that awareness, I think, is, and what I'm getting at here is that so many people don't even like themselves, let alone love themselves to be able to. So these hurt people go around hurting people because that's what they do. So within that framework, back to that, to become aware of these patterns, do you recommend therapy, that they study particular scriptures? Because, so many people don't realize that the problem is that they keep making poor choices.
Right.
So if they know something's wrong, but if they don't have that basic awareness, how do you even get into that for yourself before do you address the individual's need to have a relationship with themselves before they start, implementing your framework to look for a potential partner, which I assume you mean based on values and things you have in common and so forth, as opposed to,
absolutely,
he's so cute, I like his hair, I like his car, or whatever. So
absolutely.
Yeah. How do you get to the point of being the whole person who's ready for that?
Ooh, boy. It's work.
Right.
What has worked for me is understanding how we work as human beings. Yeah, we can pray and pray on. Absolutely. But we also have to understand like how we work, what our patterns are, what we've observed, what we picked up over the years from our caregivers, so our parents, what was their relationship like? Our grandparents, what was their relationship like? Aunts and uncles, what was their relationship like? And so we pick up all these things, and some of those things we take and we embrace them and we make them our own through meditation, through being aware of what I do in certain situations. You know how people say, oh, you got a type, for example.
Yeah.
Why do I have a type? Why, when I see that type of person, I do what I do. So it's using that as an example is stepping back and stepping away from that and saying, why do I do the things that I do? Why do I think the way that I think? And in doing that, not adding any emotion to it, not adding any judgment to it, not adding any meaning to it. It's something that happens. I'm not beating myself up about it. I'm not saying I can't believe I did that again. Oh my God, I keep doing the same thing over and over.
Right.
It's not that. It's okay. I see that I do this thing, whatever the thing is. When I see my type, I do a certain thing. I act a certain way. I say certain things.
Right.
It's okay. I see that. Why do I do that? And now I can begin to uncover deeper, usually emotional issues. And that's scary work to do. I believe that most of our issues, most of our struggles as individuals come from not being able to identify our emotions accurately, not being able to process them effectively, and sometimes even just pushing them down, ignoring them, doing what we do.
Them.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. But those are the keys to where we begin to understand ourselves better, and we begin to transform ourselves, and we begin to give ourselves grace, and we begin to. I like being with myself. So if we go through the well framework, you can apply the well framework first to yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, hey, do I even like being with myself? Do I like hanging out with myself? Because if I don't have anybody, I'm going to be by myself. Do I like hanging out with myself? Am I a cool person?
Right. And if I can't be alone with myself, why? What is that about? Is it because I had 10 siblings and I'm used to noise? Or am I just at the point that I'm even uncomfortable with my own thoughts, with my own self? Because as an adult, you should be able to be alone.
There it is. I tell people this sometimes. You know how sometimes people they'll go to sleep with the TV on, radio on, something along that line. And I say, for some people, the silence is too loud. Because when a person gets into those meditative states, I actually do sensory deprivation therapy. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. I don't know if you're hip to that.
I know people go into water tanks and rooms with, there's no light, there's no sound, and it's supposed to be very refreshing, good for your mental health. I haven't done it, but I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
I recommend try it. Most places to give you introductory discount on the initial session. I've probably done 150, 200 floats.
Oh my.
Oh yeah. If there's something to be addicted to, I'm addicted to that.
Well, that doesn't sound like a bad one. I'm guessing it's salt water, like the Dead Sea type of thing. Okay.
You got it. Salt water like the Dead Sea, your body is buoyant. And there's literally no sound because you have earplugs in, so the water doesn't get in your ear. So you have earplugs, close your eyes. There's the water is your body temperature.
Oh, wow. So you don't even know it's there, I guess. It doesn't even feel like it's there. Okay.
There it is. You forget that you even have a body once you're in there for a little while. And then literally you're in there with you and your thoughts.
Interesting.
And so I say, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just thinking, I know people who can do that with a meditative state is what it sounds like. People who can get into deep meditation. So, okay. putting that on it's not even going to be on my bucket list. That's going on my to-do list. I hadn't ever met anyone who'd actually done it. I just seen it and heard about it, but I'm intrigued now.
Oh, it has so many mental health benefits, so many physical benefits. You know, the salt water, that does stuff, body, your hair, stuff like that. The reason why I bring that up is because being in a meditative state, you know, even the Bible talks about, you know, going in, being in a how does that go? The something in the meditation of my heart. I can't remember what the first part is, but it talks about meditation in my heart, you know, the meditation process, you know, thinking. And people, when they're in that place and they're able to just really just observe what they're thinking about. And people would be surprised. I mean, I think the number is 60,000 thoughts. It goes back and forth between 6,000 and 60,000 thoughts per day we have. But let's just say it's
that's for men. For women, it's an endless cycle. It just, and I'm not saying it's confusion or turbulence, but there is a lot going on in our head. There's a list being made, activities, all kind of things going on. And
see, that's what I'm talking about.
Don't agree with me. I don't want to get you in trouble. I said it, ladies. I said it. He didn't say a word.
Bail me out, Dr. Mo. Don't have him shooting at me.
I'm not. He was gender neutral. He just said folks got a lot of thoughts. Folks.
Folks. I did say folks.
He said folks.
I did say folks. And
I got you back. I
appreciate you. We do. We as human beings, a lot of thought. Whatever the number is, we'll just leave it at a lot of thought.
Right.
And the majority of those thoughts are thoughts of the past or they're negative thoughts. I mean, it's all kinds of studies that can be easily found through Google search. That's what we do. So when we're talking about how people don't love themselves, they don't like themselves, you know, the world does send out a lot of messages to us, a lot of programming, a lot of conditioning.
Right.
A lot of negativity. Not saying that
it's
all like that, but it's out there. It's out there. So to be able to be aware of, oh wow, my negative self-talk about myself. I can't believe I did that. Oh, that was so dumb. I can't. Why do I keep doing these things? Instead of saying, I did that. Interesting. Why did I do that? Okay. And just let it pass. And see, that's what meditation is really. One of the things that it's meant to do is give people the space away from all of this.
Sure.
To be able to reflect on their experiences in the world and life. And when a person can step back and look and be honest and say, wow, I really beat myself up a lot.
Right.
And I ask people, I say, do you have kids? So sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. Do you have kids? Oh yeah. Well, would you talk to the way that you talk to yourself, would you talk to your kid that way?
Oh, wow. Good question.
And they said no. So why would you talk that way to yourself? And they're like, oh, their mind blows out. And I say, we have to encourage ourselves. I think there's a song out there, encourage yourself.
Sometimes you have to encourage yourself.
Yeah. Yep. My mom sings that a lot.
It's a beautiful song.
Yeah. She sings that a lot. But we do. We have to, it ain't even sometimes. We have to encourage ourselves a lot, all the time, I would argue. And,
absolutely.
And going back to your original question, those are some of the ways in which we can recondition ourselves, reprogram ourselves by taking time to get away from all of the noise and be able to, what did they say? Criticize our thinking, criticize our thoughts, and not criticize from a finger wagging perspective, but criticize and say, is this a thought that serves me, or is this the thought that doesn't serve me? How often do I have this thought? Now that I'm aware that this thought is coming up repeatedly, I can then start to interrupt that pattern and reframe that. I do a lot of work with people in this way, and also people who have public speaking anxiety. And we do a lot of reframing, because people say, "Oh, I'm terrible at speaking," or some people, let's take it back to relationships. "Oh, I'm terrible at relationships. I'm unlucky at relationships." Well, you keep telling yourself that enough times, and that's going to be the
You're
case.
going to attract it.
There it is. There it is. What the Bible say, power, life, and death is in the tongue.
In the tongue, indeed.
So, hey, if you putting it out there, you creating self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's so crucial. It's so critical to just get a hold of those negative thoughts and see them when they occur, and then reframe it and say, I am I'm loving myself more, or I'm becoming more courageous, or I'm a lovable person.
I like that. I tell myself I'm giving myself some grace today. I'm allowing myself to be human, to be imperfect, and learn from experiences and move on. Because I think that's a problem for a lot of people. Like we were talking about repeating bad choices, bad relationships, is that you're not learning from it, and you will get the same lesson. Nature, life, the universe is like school. If you don't pass, you fail. Well, they probably have social promotion now, but in real life, you will keep having the same experience until you learn the lesson.
There it is.
It's for you, not to you. If it keeps happening, it's for you, not to you. If it keeps happening. And I had a thought as you were talking about being able to assess yourself, particularly when it comes to behaviors. What you think nobody else knows, but when it comes to behaviors, at work in corporate America, we do the 360s. You get feedback from team members all around you who see you in different lights. And you can do that in your personal life too.
100%.
With people who you trust. If you can't figure out what's going on, why does this keep happening, family, good friends, they will tell you because they're seeing it objectively. They're seeing it, betting on it, talking about it behind your back. They already know what's going to happen with the new Shaniqua, with the new Kevin. They already know because they've seen you do it so many times. But, and then when things don't work out, they're like, well, we knew that was coming. So that you've got resources. If you can't figure it out for yourself, it's hard. But if they do it in love and it's constructive, we have to learn to accept that. We have to learn to accept that everything about us is not great, and all feedback is not going to be amazing. Sometimes there's room for improvement.
There's always room for improvement. Ain't no sometimes.
I was trying to be nice.
Room for improvement.
Always. So you're a speaker. I'm a speaker. We're both speaker coaches as well. We have that in common. We both done TEDx talks. How does this framework apply to communication and navigating conversations? Is it applicable there as well?
Oh, yeah, I believe so. I think people, once they're in relationship, I talked about some of the people that I help overcome speaking anxiety, speaking fear. How many times I'll speak for myself. How many times have I observed a behavior, didn't say nothing about it? Because I'm afraid of what the consequences are. But if I'm looking at it from the well framework perspective, if I'm in the welcome, if I'm in the entertaining, if I'm in the like stage, especially if I'm in the like stage, by that time, I should be so comfortable with that other person that I should be able to say whatever I need to say. Now, granted, you can't be a jerk about it. There has to be some tact. It has to be some decorum, and there's nothing wrong with being direct, and there's nothing wrong with being clear. And so when you ask the question, can it apply? Absolutely, because if we're taking the steps, and the love part is 3 steps down the road or 2 steps down the road. Well, I'm not trying to look at it from, well, I don't want to mess this up. This is too good to be true, or, any of those kinds of things. It's, hey,
Right.
I'm at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at this step. I'm at this step. And because we're taking the step from W to the E to the L and to the L, let's say it's a ladder. As I'm ascending the ladder, I ought to be able to be more comfortable in expressing what I see, what I feel, and there not be any negative responses or repercussions. And if it is, I mean, that's an immediate, oh, wait a minute.
So that's a flag. That I was about to ask, what if you don't reach that point of comfort? Because I know people in relationships, they seem to be in constant fear of saying the wrong word, doing the wrong thing. I might set this person off, and I'm like, why would you want to pursue that if you can't have an honest, authentic conversation?
That's right. And so with the framework, let's say I get to entertain, and then I find out, I can't communicate as openly as I would like to. Well, then I can keep that person in that place. I don't have to advance that person to I can put them back in the welcome part of it, or I can keep them in the entertaining part of it. But I think people also, when things like this happen, they don't have a strategy of, okay, what do I do next? Well, we've been together for 3-4 months or 3-4 years. Well, and we're here, so I'm just gonna stay here because I don't know where else I could put this person in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I might still like them. They might still be all right, but they might not be all right for me. But I'm so far down the road on things that, well, now I don't know. I don't want to turn back.
Right.
Because I don't know where I'm going to put them. Am I going to put them on, friend status, friends with benefits status? Where am I going to put them?
Right.
Well, I know that if I'm following this framework, I can put a person in a place and say, hey, if it's not working out, if it's not working out, I know I'm not going. If I'm in entertain, I can't put that person in but I can keep them in entertain. Or I can put them
I want to expand that. Is entertain, sure. We go to the movies, we go to dinner, we hang out with our friend group. What would entertain look like then if I know I'm not going to like and love? Is that friendship? What is entertain?
But you know how you bump into folks and, they're just like, oh, hey, I know old girl from around the way, or I know old boy from around the way. When you see him, you're cordial and you're out and about. But, you're not necessarily reaching out saying, hey, let's go to the movies. Let's go out on a date.
Okay. Gotcha. So they're an associate, friendly, but we leave it there. Okay.
That's a good alternate description, an associate.
Okay. So back to friends with benefit. What is that, L? Is that the first L, or I'll just try to make sure I'm clear on where what these different letters. I mean, you said it, so I'm just trying to help the list. The people want to know.
Fair enough. Inquiring minds want to know. For me, if you're in the like stage, then friends with benefits could be an option. But again, that's going back to the communication part of it too, right?
Right.
So if we're going back to the idea of emotional response as opposed to deliberate choice, how many times I'll speak for myself. How many times have I slipped into friends with benefits and I don't know if I even like the person?
Exactly. And often end up regretting it.
I'm
not speaking to my history at all. I heard.
I'm speaking for a friend.
I heard that people say they rush these things sometimes because of emotion, which is what I like about a framework, because we're just kind of diving into relationship. Like you said, There's no curriculum on them. So the people are jumping to love before they've even developed a friendship, before they know the person's middle name. You know,
There
they're
it
just
is.
jumping in because they're so lumped, because they're so desperate. I love you. I'll do anything for you. I don't know anything about you, though. You know,
Exactly. You nailed it, Dr. Mo. You nailed it.
Yeah. I like the idea of a framework and working the framework. Really, really nice. I want to expand this just a bit before we go. We're getting low on time here, but if we're looking at work relationship, how do you, and I'm bringing the speaking communication part in here too, how do you maintain your authentic communication style while navigating a business environment? And so often leadership or your colleagues are dominated by people who may be different from you, whether you're female or BIPOC or younger or whatever. How do you do that and maintain your authenticity but build a relationship?
That's a great question. I work with people all over the world, founders, CEOs, enterprise sales reps, executive directors, nonprofits. I was surprised to hear how often people who are at these levels struggle to communicate authentically, struggle to let their personality shine through in their communication. Perfect example. There was a guy I was working with. He's a CEO of a publicly traded company over in Norway, doing some really cool stuff with solar technology. It's
Awesome.
crazy. But he came to me. He's a young CEO. So he's not, 60 years old, 65 years old, anything like that. He's 40-year-old CEO of
Impressive.
there it is, of a publicly traded company. And he told me, he said, I struggle because I feel like I'm expected to be a certain way because of my title. I should talk a certain way because of my title. And I told him, I said, look here, man. I said, I used to be like that too. In most of the circles that I've been in my life, in business, community work, all of the things, where I live, there aren't very many highly melanated folks.
Okay.
I'm sitting on board. I'm in chamber of commerce meetings. I'm in these spaces with people who have influence, make decisions. And 9 times out of 10, I got my red ant shirt on or my yellow ant shirt on or hoodie, my Michigan thing. And I show up as myself because
Beautiful.
I've done the work on myself to be comfortable with myself.
Right.
And because I'm grounded in that, I am able to go into these places with courage and understand that, some folks might not get down with Ant Blair, and that's okay.
Right.
But that's not going to deter me from being me.
Right.
And that also, in communication, to your point about communication, it's many facets to communication. One of the things that I encourage people to do is expand your vocabulary. I use Quizzitive. I don't know if you hip to that app, Merriam-Webster.com.
I'm not.
Yeah. So I'm turning you on to sensory deprivation and Merriam-Webster's. They have a vocabulary development game. It's called Quizzitive.
I will download that today. I play a lot of word game, wordscapes, all kind. I love me some word games. So you're speaking to the right person. So,
hey,
but I love that you said, show up as yourself, and it's something I talk to my mentees and my clients about as well. Is that competence and confidence are attractive to people. That will bring people to you. It's a type of charisma. Because no matter how you're dressed, if you're not confident, and if, that saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. If you can be authentically interested in people, listen to them, and bring them something they can use, which is what we're doing today with this show, that will attract not all people, but the right people to you.
There it is. I mean, the Bible even talks about that. I can't quote it verbatim, but it basically says, your skills will put you in front of important people. Like I say, I can't.
It does, but we're going to get you a Bible app too, because you forever trying to quote something. Can't quite.
I have one.
You're coming close, brother, but still.
Hey, your stuff, you know what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but that's because my mother is a minister and her husband is a bishop, my stepdad.
Oh,
but
wow.
The other people out there, they don't know, bro, so you got to be precise with your scripture reference. I'm just messing with you. Hey,
I know it. I love it.
I love it too. This has been so much fun. Unfortunately, we're out of time in our final moments. Please tell listeners more about the services you offer and how they can connect with you online, Ant Blair.
Oh, you can go to antblair.com, www.antblair.com. I help people with communication, overcoming public speaking anxiety, overcoming anxiety at large in your relationships with yourself, in life, in the world. And I do mentor people from time to time. Mm-hmm. My whole thing is I'm just trying to help people be their best self, whatever that looks like. And for me, it just turns out that communication is the way in which I can do that the most effective way.
And you're doing it globally. You're doing it well. And kudos to you. You guys reach out to Ant Blair at antblair.com. Thank you so much, Ant, for being here today and for sharing your well framework and your strategies and anecdotes. It's been a great pleasure interviewing you. And thank you, listeners, for your time and support of this woman-owned indie podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and share for more like this. Until next time, be safe and be well. Thank you. And wasn't that a great program? Oh, love that episode. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Learn more about me on my website, drmoanderson.com. That's MOE. You can read book excerpts, watch videos, learn about my services that I offer, and book me for a speaking engagement. I'd love to talk with your group, and I'd love to work with you. So until the next time, review, renew, and renew. Thank you.